We're talking today with David Redmond, who works with Vision Ireland. David, you're very, very welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, John. It's a pleasure to be on a show like this, and fantastic indeed that a show like this exists on a
And
community radio.
it's absolutely fantastic. And we cover all things disability, and it's great to have it. You might
Absolutely.
tell us, first of all, if there's any statistics for people with sight loss.
Yeah, so I suppose the statistics are, I suppose, growing all of the time. The way this has been managed has changed in the census in recent years. So it can be a little bit challenging to get an accurate number, I suppose, consistently. But the key thing is every day, around 18 people in Ireland start to lose their vision. So that can be for a whole variety of reasons. That could be age related. It may be, something more, accidental, for example, or some other condition. Young people have vision impairments too. So there's a whole load of reasons why someone might lose their vision. But, if we average it out, it's about 18 people a day.
Uh-huh.
And I guess the reason Vision Ireland exists is to try and I guess provide support for those people, both, as they go through that journey, but also in the longer term as well. There's ongoing things, as there is with a whole variety of disabilities,
Yeah.
that require support. And that's why Vision Ireland is here, I guess.
Um, for a child and for parents of a child particularly, it must be
Mhm.
a major shock to be told your child has lost or is losing their sight.
It absolutely is. And, the experience of that is different for everyone. So I, for example, was born with a vision impairment myself, but both of my parents are also visually impaired. So the experience for them, for example, will be completely different to someone who has no familiarity with vision impairment or blindness. That can be a very scary time for a parent, for a family member, or indeed for the person going through it themselves, especially if they might be a teenager, or if even if they're older, then again, what they need, they don't know necessarily what they need at that point. So it's a very scary experience because the experience is new. I suppose what I'd say though is that, you can live a very fulfilling life with a vision impairment. It's not the be all and end all. The life isn't necessarily as different as people might think. So, while yes, it's absolutely scary, you can live a very normal life with sight loss, and there are supports that can assist with that for sure.
Are there, I presume that a diagnosis for a child is a very emotional thing.
It would be absolutely. We have, I suppose, we have three different core teams in Vision Ireland that work with different areas of the life cycle. So that could be those kind of employment age, that could be older adults, but also, as you allude to there, we have a lot of children's services. So we have a whole team of people that are well used to dealing with both the practical and the emotional side of that. It can often be a social thing. There can be, unfortunately, a bit of social isolation
Mhm.
for visually impaired kids. We also know that there are other, impacts, things that you wouldn't necessarily expect, around, for example, physical activity. That oftentimes a visually impaired child won't partake in the same level of physical education that a sighted child might take part in schools, for example. So, we have, supports like our organization Vision Sports to deal with that. So I guess, it is a very emotional thing, but we like to think about it as a full picture, that there are options there to, I suppose, get around that for people and cut through and see how can we actually make that journey easier.
Yeah, and it's a big thing, isn't it? I
It
looked through
is.
your website and some of the sports that are there are fantastic.
Yeah, there's a whole variety of stuff. I'm down in Cork, and we have walking groups. There are accessible swimming. There's We have a tandem cycling service near enough where I'm living. So there's so many options that we
Yeah.
have, and it's likewise right across the country. I remember, when I was, around 12 or 13, I took part in an event we have called Campabilities. And what that is basically it's a summer camp where visually impaired kids can come together. They can, try out a whole variety of different sports activities. But that has huge benefits, even just socially, John. It's
Yeah.
as I said, it can be a very socially isolating thing if you don't know someone who has the same vision impairment to yourself. Maybe for whatever reason, you're not able to use some of the same things that your sighted friends use, whether that's, Snapchat in school or whatever the case may be. And, that's why we have things like capabilities and sports events, and we have technology things and a whole variety of different things.
Brilliant.
That's why we have those things, I guess.
And tell us, is there terminology that's used that shouldn't be used around sight loss?
It's a great question. I suppose you can always have people, I think, have different views on this. So a lot of people, for example, would have pride in the word blind as a term. So blind would often be people who have extremely low or no vision. And that will be a percentage of the people we work with. And then a lot of people will use terms like partially sighted, visually impaired, vision impaired, to describe people who, I suppose, do have some level of usable vision, but may still require support. So is there terms that should or shouldn't be used? I suppose it's the same with any disability, but I think we think about, more the practical stuff rather than the words that are used to describe it as much as possible.
I get you. What part does technology do play in all this?
Technology plays a huge part.
I would have thought so.
Yeah, personally, I argue that, technology is one of the biggest enablers for people with sight loss. And I guess, if you go back 50 years, right, and someone had low or no vision, and let's say a letter comes in the door, realistically, you're going to have to ask someone else to read that for
Okay.
you. Nowadays, you can get that read through the camera on your phone. You can fully access your phone using technology like a screen reader. We're now reaching points where there are smart glasses available. So these are glasses that have a little camera on them that don't improve how you see, like a lens, for example, would, but they will actually take a photo through the camera and be able to read things to you, to describe things to you. Um, the benefits that has in terms of enabling independence, both for living at home, but also in employment, is absolutely huge. I use like we're using Zoom to have this conversation today.
Yeah.
And I've got that on an iPad here, but that iPad is using a screen reader called VoiceOver.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
that allows me to read every aspect on the screen. I don't need to be able to see the screen. In fact, I can't see the screen currently. So you can absolutely live independently using technology, and it's a massive, massive enabler.
Absolutely. And it's great to have it, isn't it? I mean, the
It
developments
is
in technology are just astounding.
huge. And I suppose I should say that, for a lot of people, technology is also very daunting, though. So that's why we have a department called VI Labs. So what VI Labs does is we do training for people who are blind or visually impaired in how they can use different technologies. That could be simple stuff like using the phone. or the television, or just little things like that to make life a little bit easier or more enjoyable. But that progresses right up to different, workplace applications and really specialized software too. So we have a whole variety of training courses, which people can check out on the website. But we also do one-on-one kind of training as well. So people, please do feel free to get in touch because there's so much out there.
I wanted to ask you, what does an eye clinic liaison officer do?
An eye clinic liaison officer is basically a link between us in Vision Ireland and different ophthalmology departments across the country. So when someone gets a diagnosis of vision impairment, as we touched on earlier, that kind of 18 people a day, that's a very scary, unnerving experience for a lot of people. And oftentimes you don't know where exactly to go at that point. But the idea with an eye clinic liaison officer or an ECLO is that we as Vision Ireland have someone in the hospital when you get that diagnosis that can direct you to our services and show you what we have to offer and guide you that there's a lot of different supports available to you, I guess.
That's very useful, isn't it?
It's hugely useful. And since,
Absolutely.
having that, a lot of our referrals come through eye clinic liaison officers. So they can, introduce you to the people that are there to get you the support that will benefit you. And I think that's hugely valuable because, there are two kind of models of disability. You have the medical model and you have the social model. And, for a lot of people, especially when they're starting off that journey, it is a very medical journey. But a huge amount, and arguably the most important part, is that social aspect. So that's why getting people into, an environment where they see that they can actually thrive, that's hugely important.
Brilliant. You might tell us what are some of the myths around sight loss?
Yeah,
I'd say
it's a
there's a
great
huge
question.
amount of them.
There absolutely is. Not least the carrots are going to cure sight loss in the morning. I'm still waiting. I've carrots every night, John, and it's still not working.
Yeah.
But do you know what? There are loads of myths. I guess that the most common questions that we would hear, playfully, I suppose in some respects, a lot of people would ask if someone has no vision, do they dream? The answer to that is they absolutely do. But there are, I suppose, more serious myths. There are lots of people who believe that, vision impaired people aren't able to hold down a job when they absolutely are. There are lots of people who, believe that, visually impaired people aren't able to participate equally in society. They absolutely are. A visually impaired person, I think, for the most part, can do anything that a sighted person can. They may do it in a different way, absolutely, that's fine. But, independence, is something that visually impaired people absolutely have. And they live a life that is very, quote unquote, normal. They'll go to the cinema, they have interests. I love theatre, for example. You can absolutely have normal lives. And there are myths that, why would someone who's blind or visually impaired watch television when they can't see it? Well, they might watch television, they'll just use audio description instead. Yeah. Or, how can they hold down a job? Same as anyone else. It just, it depends on how they do something.
And the one I always hear is that people with sight loss, their other senses are much better because of it.
It's true. Yeah, there's a lot of people believe that we've supersonic hearing. And I wish it was true. Like, I work a lot with audio, and I wish it was true. I do think there's possibly some truth to the fact that you maybe pay more attention to things like sound. But it doesn't give you super abilities. I hear a lot of talk sometimes about people with different disabilities being heroized or being kind of portrayed as a hero in some way. And it just goes back to, they're just normal people that do things maybe slightly different to the way you do.
Uh, we get on then to Vision Ireland. You might tell us a bit about the history of it and why
Yeah.
it was set up.
Yeah, so I guess Vision Ireland has been around over 90 years. We're coming up to 100 now.
Wow.
So yeah, we've been around for a while. We used to be originally called the NCBI, so the National Council of the Blind. So the name changed back in 2023. And I suppose it's just evolving the name to kind of move with the times. Not a lot of people knew what the NCBI stood for. So Vision Ireland is a bit clearer around that we support people who are blind or visually impaired. The aim hasn't changed. It's just the name. But yeah, we've been around nearly 100 years, and our core goal is always has been and will always be to support people who are blind or visually impaired. It's not, people coming back to those misconceptions, it's not just people who have no vision. Vision impairment is a spectrum,
Yeah.
as are many different types of disabilities. Some people absolutely have no vision. That is a group that we support. But there are also a wide variety of people who do have some level of usable vision, and support for them from us might look at, how we can support them in using the vision that they've got to the best of their abilities with things like magnifiers, and other forms of technology, as we mentioned earlier. So I guess that is Vision Ireland in a nutshell. We've been around a while. Hopefully, we're going to be around for a little while to come. And yeah, that's why we're here, is to support blind and visually impaired people.
Brilliant. And mention some of the services that you provide.
Yeah, so I suppose when someone comes to Vision Ireland for the first time, they'll meet with what we call a community resource worker. And that person will give them kind of an initial kind of run through of, what we do, what we've got on offer, all of that sort of stuff. But in terms of the services that are on offer, the variety is huge. So we've touched already on things like Vision Sports Ireland. So they provide access to a whole variety of different sports. Loads of people have an interest in sport, as we discussed. We have technology support. So that's VR Labs. They do a whole variety of technology training support. They also operate a technology support help desk, where if someone's having a technology problem or a query, they can call and get the support they need. They also have technology podcasts that people can listen to at any time. In fact, my main job is hosting that.
Oh, brilliant.
So yeah, this is it's always fun to do the radio side,
Yeah.
but podcasts are fun too. We also, have other supports then around, our library service, for example, who can provide books in a whole variety of accessible formats, whether that's Braille, whether that's audiobook, which of course are hugely popular nowadays, even among sighted people.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've loads of services. I guess the services that two people will need will almost never be the same.
Yeah.
It's a huge variety. There are some things that Vision Ireland doesn't do. So we do leave some parts to other organizations. So, for example, we don't deal directly with guide dog provision, for example. But what we do kind of facilitate is, if that is a need for someone, we'll direct them as to where they do need to go. And I think that's kind of an important way in which we do that. So those are our services for, I suppose, individuals. It is also worth noting just briefly that we do also provide services then for other agencies. So, for example, we would do training with transport operators on how they can, better accommodate people with vision impairments, but also a whole variety of disabilities. So we have a facility in Dublin called the Wayfinding Centre who tackle that. We have a sister company called Viali, and Viali, well, their gig is basically making sure that websites and digital experiences are accessible to those using screen readers and other assistive technologies. So we do a huge variety of different things for individuals, but the needs of any two individuals will never really be the same, I guess. It's a very individual thing.
Very comprehensive service.
I'd like to think so.
I checked out the website and I read every piece of it, and it's really, really comprehensive. And if I was somebody who needed the service, I would certainly go and visit it.
Thank you very much. Look, we try and support people as best we can. That's the aim. And like, if people do want to reach out, even if you've got just a question, maybe you're not sure yet as to whether this is something that applies to you, but maybe you're, finding it a little harder to see things or whatever, that's absolutely fine. Just give us a call. That's absolutely fine. Or you can fill out a referral form on our website. You don't need to get somebody in a hospital or a doctor or anything to refer to us. You can do that yourself. Our website is vi.ie. That's VI for Vision Ireland.ie. And one of the first buttons there is a make a referral button, and you can do that yourself. You don't need to ask permission. We'll be more than happy to assist you, though.
And the last question I have for the minute, how can the general public support Vision Ireland?
Yeah, look, there are loads of ways that people can support Vision Ireland, but also people who are visually impaired in general. So if you like what Vision Ireland does, what Vision Ireland's mission is, you can make a donation, which is really greatly appreciated and does make a massive difference. So thank you to everyone who does that. But there are other things as well. So, it's little things make a difference to people who are visually impaired. It's making sure that if you're putting your bins out, that it's not blocking pathways. That's a challenge for, everybody, really, who might have a buggy or anything like that, but makes a big difference to those using guide dogs or canes to get around. Another thing, speaking of dogs, pick up dog poo, makes a big difference.
Yeah.
You do not want to get dog poo on a cane. Do you know what, John? It's little things like this that make the biggest differences to people who are blind or visually impaired. If you're in a workplace, talk about disability. It's really important. People who have disabilities are a huge group that are there. They're ready to be supported. They're ready to use your services if you're in employment. So it's important to make sure that they can use those services. And this change starts with individuals. So that is really, really important, I guess.
Now, right at the end of it, thank God says you.
Listen, I've loved it. I could stay here all day.
Is there anything else you'd like to put out there before we go?
Look, just to reiterate that point, I guess if people want to find out more, you can do so on our website. So that's vi.ie. That's vi.ie. Or people can give us a phone call as well. The number for that, it's 1-800-911-110. So that's 1-800-911-110. And if people do want to get in touch, maybe you've got a question, maybe you want to learn a little bit more about technology, by all means, just please do feel free to reach out to us. And I'm going to shamelessly plug as well, we do have our podcasts and stuff like that as well. So maybe you're not quite ready to reach out just yet. You can, of course, go to our website, but you can also listen to our podcasts. So our main technology podcast, if that's what interests you, is called Talking Technology. So you can search for Talking Technology with Vision Ireland wherever you get your podcasts, and you'll find that support there too.
Very good. David Redmond, thank you so much for talking to us at Disability Matters.
An absolute pleasure, John. Thank you so much for having me.
It was our pleasure.